my dad has a lot of new ideas and seen stuff happen, and then he'll come to me and go, hey, let's do this, let's try this. So then I actually get to try, which is good because we're not stuck in the same way where you put corn here this year, you put milo here this year, you put beans here the next year. It's not, I mean, when we go and we try to figure out what crop we're going to put in the different different places, we get a pen and paper, we write it down, and then probably
and compare notes,
and then 3 days later we change it.
Yeah. So, but anyway, it's we're not afraid to make mistakes.
Yeah,
I mean, and I've made a ton of them, but
it's never been perfect each time.
No, but it's sure is nice to look outside the box and not do the same thing. That get out of your comfort zone, I guess you'd say, and try something. You might surprise yourself and find out, hey, this is my new comfort zone.
And I mean, you can't just try it 1 year either because there's limiting factors like moisture.
Yeah,
like we've tried things and they're like, man, it should have worked. It should have worked. And, we just didn't have the moisture. So then we probably try it again next year. And then, there it was a home run. Now there's other things that we've tried a couple of years ago. Yeah, that's not going to work too.
Yeah.
So,
but the thing, bothers me, the people who say, yeah, I no-till and maybe put beans in wheat stubble or something like that in 1 year and then back to tilling. But I mean, anything that you can, it takes some time for that ground to get to where you want it to be. I mean, we've been doing it over 20 years, and there's still some areas where I'd like to see us. I think I'd say our average organic matter percentage is 3.5, maybe a little more, which.
And I think that's
when we actually started, I didn't know what that was, organic. I thought that was the cow been out here. But anyway, it takes a while. You sure can't make that up in any short period of time. But you just gotta resolve yourself to say, that's what I'm going to do. I see it is working for other people. I'm going to do it. And Chris plants corn for people around here, and he said, come here and drive. I got to go do something else. And so I went there, and this ground is worked rough, son of a gun. I mean, and by having work ground and then spraying the same way, you got your wheel tracks, same way every year, you got ruts. And if people had just they're worried about going no-till because, I got this ruts in here and it's just going to compound itself, but it doesn't. By running that drill over the planter, it actually smooths it off. And if you can get cover, I'll swear by that no-till will save your ground and make it a lot less headaches driving over the field later.
Well, the biggest reason we got out of no-till is because my dad did not like to sit in a tractor days on end, working ground, going back and forth, and then found hey, we can just go no-till. And he knew from the beginning, because I remember him talking about it, going, we're not going to have the best crops of everybody around, but we're going to have less inputs. And that's a thing I think that people need to understand is if you go take your inputs and how much money you spent on fuel going over it so many different times. And if you raise, say, 60 bushel wheat and we go out and we went over it to drill it, really, because everything else is pretty much the same, the spraying and all that.
Well, after taking the subsequent or the first crop.
Right, but not without working it. And you go and if we make 50, we're still way money ahead. Yeah, we can't brag, we made 50 bushel, because, but we made this. And I think people look at it different instead of the money that you actually have.
Well, it's not coffee shop talk.
Well, right. But right. It's not like if people would start going in and go, but look how much money I actually made on this because everybody has their inputs and stuff instead of how many bushels I made. It would be a whole different ball game. But everybody's looking for that. How many bushels I made? Well, you spent how many times going over the field, compared to...
Well, and with the cost of fuel, the way it is now, you don't have, not to say repairs, I mean, everything has gone up. So you got
and that piece of equipment that you need to do that, and the piece of equipment. And now I think they're just getting more and more into everybody's. I mean, the equipment they're coming out with now, I think, is starting to get more and more geared to no-till, but you can actually do conventional with it because the down pressure on all the stuff that they have.
But I think that a way to get, I think more people they have to look outside. They have to be open to ideas. And the way I think that people would really get interested in no-till is having more tours, having people go out to those that been no-tilling for years and years and look at their crops. I mean, the no-tillers I know, they're not afraid to say they made a mistake with this, or this didn't work out, the daggum sprayer didn't work.
But another thing is, when you come to that, people can't afford mistakes. Some people can't afford mistakes, and that might be the last, you know.
But well, I don't know.
And they're so used to it. When you're so used to doing something a certain way, I mean, we even argue about it. You do it your way and I do it my way, and we argue about which way to do it. But yours works for yours and mine works for me.
I'm right.
I know.
But, I think it's just, you can't just be comfortable in what you're doing. I mean, we're not comfortable with what we're doing. We're wanting to look at different things. I think it ought to be just an ever-learning process of how you can, benefit the ground, benefit your cattle if you have a cattle operation, or benefit your pocketbook. You got to look at ways to do it. And we're in grain prices are high. It's great, but what they take out in the price of fertilizer, fuel, equipment, I mean, you figure it all up, and margins aren't much better than when we had, well, $4 wheat we're losing, but at $5-6 wheat. So, got to be open to new ideas, and that's where I think the tour, no-till farm, they're not afraid to show you that like what they're doing. But I mean, I think it's not a trade secret,
right? But I think it works better for people around here going somewhere else, because those people show you. But if you try to do it in the same community, people seem to hide it. Like, if we go, like when I went to South Dakota, they will show you everything they're doing. But I wonder if somebody that's right there next to them, hey, this is what, I don't know how it might work different that way when you do these.
Yeah.
That you got to take people from a different place and take them somewhere else.
Yeah.
So that nobody's afraid, because you're not going to hurt. You're not competing against them. Like, you started saying then, you're not competing against that person. You're at a farm way away from where they are. So that's where maybe those tours would be.
Well, I think that goes to show the IQ increases the further away you get from home. 60 miles away, they'd believe us.
Well, I was just going to take a little time to talk about what we talked earlier about, how we wanted to interseed into corn and milo and stuff like that. So we actually went out and got a drone that'll actually fly, and it'll be able to seed, spray fungicide, insecticide, do all that through standing crops, so you're not worried about tracks in your field if it's a little wet, all that. So we went out and got a drone. We have a couple of them, and we're going to do that interseeding in corn and milo this year, where we're really going to try to see if we can get with rape, a little triticale, a little veg, a little turnips. And before we go let cattle out, when the milo's dying, we're going to go out, or the corn's finished off, we're going to go broadcast over the top of it and see if we can't get something else to grow as our corn's not pulling any moisture anymore. So that's kind of where we went with this. We've sprayed wheat. We did all our wheat, our top dressing with this. Now, we didn't put any fertilizer with it. We just did the chemical. And we're doing a lot of pastures. And then we just got done spraying alfalfa for bugs. So that's what we've been doing mainly with it. We're getting ready, gearing up for when we put fungicide on wheat. And with this drone, we can go and we can do we figured out about an acre a minute. So what it does, we put 1.5 gallons to 2 gallons on per acre, and it holds 10.5 gallons. And by the time it gets out there, it flies at 25 miles an hour, and it's about a 30-foot swath is what it does. And by the time you send it out, come back, it takes about 7 minutes to unload. Comes back, takes you about 1.5 minutes to put new batteries in, put the chemical in, and send it back out and start flying again. So you don't have the roughness. It follows the terrain. It can get into any corner, and plus you don't have the tracks in your field. So we're really liking how this works. It sounds like it doesn't hold much, but it actually gets quite a bit more done than you would think. This thing is really easy to use. You go to your field that you want to be in, and with your phone, you just map the field, and you put dots out there. You map the field. You can move the points, and then when you're all done with that, you just set up that field, put a name with it, so it'll always be there because it's on RTK, so it doesn't drift. It stays like it would. It's not a GPS, so it doesn't work on satellite. And once you get the field mapped, it pretty much does everything itself. It'll tell you when it's empty. It'll come back and land right next to right exactly where you put it. Then you just go fill it up, hit the button, resume. It takes off, knows exactly where it ended, starts again, and just goes. And the thing about it, it doesn't start any particular area. It just goes to the quickest part, starts there, and just starts and does like little strips, and then it'll start bigger, and then it'll tell you when it's finished and complete, and it counts down the acres of the field after you map it, so you know exactly how much more you have to do.